What if 10-3 happened after those tough losses? Think about this for a second. Good afternoon to you. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot Show. And this is a hypothetical. In fact, it's an impossible to process hypothetical because so much happened as the result of those 3 losses in 11 days for the Steelers to the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs that rewriting the script just doesn't even work, because I'm convinced that those 3 losses led into the lousy regular season loss against the Bengals and led into the lousy performance in the playoffs against the Ravens. I don't think they can be picked apart. But I do think that it's worthwhile to weigh what 10-3 actually was, what 10-3 might have meant moving forward. And are we, all of us, myself included, possibly too down about this entire operation? Now, I say this, and please do not misunderstand me. I am not removing any shred of doubt or blame or anything at all negative related to how the season ended. I feel that it should have cost people up to and including the head coach their jobs. That's how bad that was. But almost all of those people, including the head coach, are back. And most of these players are going to be back. So there is something worthwhile, I think, in looking at that 10-3 and asking what it actually was. The first thing that has to happen there, from my perspective, is that we've got to stop just being lazy and saying, oh, they just had an easier schedule. Oh, yeah, schedule was just cake or whatever. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Yeah, they played the 2 New Jersey teams. They played a couple other stinkers. But they also beat the Ravens. They also beat the Chargers, who were a playoff team. They beat the Commanders, who would end up in the conference championship on their field in front of their fans. Those are not nothing wins. Those are wins that for a lot of teams would be, a statement. But I mean, yeah, beating Baltimore is a statement. Beating Washington this past season was a statement. Beating the Chargers, I don't know so much because they had issues at quarterback and everything at the time, but whatever. Denver ended up being a decent team. Steelers beat Denver out there on the road. They never win out there. The Steelers never win against the Raiders on the road. They won against the Raiders on the road. So the idea that this was all just a cakewalk is really, it's not accurate. Okay. You might want it to be accurate to preserve a certain narrative that you're trying to push. If you happen to be pushing that narrative, doesn't make it accurate. When I think of 10-3, what I think of first and foremost is that the defense ranked really high in almost every category, but especially when it came to stopping the run. And that's one reason that I, to be honest with you here, cringed a little bit whenever Art Rooney said in that room a month ago that the Steelers really need to focus first and foremost on their run defense. And we're like, do they really? Do they really? Is that really a shortcoming, or did these guys just get gassed because they never left the field for the final 5-6 weeks of the season? This is something that could be fixed by maybe doing something, technical or different with Keanu Benton. Is it something that could be fixed by having Minkah Fitzpatrick closer to the line of scrimmage or a Landon Roberts on the field more often? I think so. I don't think this is something that needs to be, oh no, this team gets defined by 299 yards on the ground against in one game against Baltimore at the end of a real grinder. The offense is tougher to gauge because of 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different sets of circumstances, and really 2 different versions of Russell Wilson between what he did in his first handful and what he did in the last handful. But as I look at 10-3, I think there's something to be had there, especially from the defensive standpoint, and I would really hate to see them use the 299 yards on the ground against as an excuse to just keep putting all of the money and all of the resources onto one side of the football. It needs to go to the offense. When we come back, I'll be joined by Chris Halleck with more on this subject.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by the guy who accompanied me every step of the way through that 10-3 start, because we go wherever the Steelers go. And, we have a lot of conversations when we travel. And probably the main one through that 10-3 was exactly what I just talked about before the break, which is that real? Is this real? Is it going to be real? Or as Chris would constantly bring up, yeah, but did you see the schedule that's coming up later? And there's me dumping all over that concept. I'm like, nah, don't worry about the schedule. This team can build some momentum, build some confidence. There it went. But was there something? Look, you were with me there in Landover too.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That team ends up in a conference championship. So was there anything from that should be taken seriously, that should be taken as if, hey, remember these Steelers too?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can look at 10-3 for any team and just completely say, no, that was some sort of fluke. It's a 13-game stretch. It's not a 2-game stretch or a 4-game stretch where you can even go, okay, quarter of the season, they just found their groove. 13 games is 13 games. And yeah, the first half of the schedule was definitely easier than the second half of the schedule. But as you mentioned, they beat some actual football teams. They beat Washington on their own field and made Jaden Daniels they probably did the best job of making Jaden Daniels look like a rookie, even though he still had a pretty good game.
He turtled. Yeah. I mean, let's call that for what it is. He turtled.
And that first game against the Ravens, they continue to do well against Lamar Jackson. They continue to whatever their game plan has always been to contain him and to limit his ability to not be like Superman Lamar, like he is pretty much against every time he plays the NFC. Like they were able to do that. And so, yeah, I do think you have some actual things that you can take from that and be like, yeah, this was a real thing. And one of the big things was they were able to what Russell Wilson did is he helped take the top off when it came to the way the offense attacked defenses. And that in turn helped the offense become much more potent. They weren't so much this short to medium. All of a sudden they were able to attack defenses deep. The problem is that they fell in love with that and wanted to do nothing but that. And I think that was one of the reasons why his play deteriorated down the stretch.
Yeah, but we're sticking with 10-3 here.
Yeah.
Because there was also a vibe developing in that locker room. There was a genuine sense of belief. The guys that we were talking to, whether it was here in Pittsburgh or out on the road, they had something that they felt was accumulating. And I think that's the part where, we'll just go ahead and do it, because they got to Philadelphia and everything just turned sour, because in Philadelphia, I feel like they still had all that swagger.
Yeah.
They still went out there and they every time the Eagles kicked them in the mouth, they kicked them right back in the same spot or somewhere even more sensitive. And it just kept going like that the whole day. They ended up on the short end of it. Okay. Yeah. But I didn't see the overwhelming sense of, oh no, they're such a vastly inferior team. I just think that began the trend, and then the schedule took effect and everything else. Yeah. It might wrong here? I know I've gotten a lot of criticism from people about the way I saw that game against the Eagles. I really liked what they did there. They just didn't win, and they were facing obviously a better team.
Yeah, they were definitely. Yeah, they definitely got outclassed that day.
Yes.
And what the Eagles did was every time the Steelers made a mistake or didn't capitalize on a mistake, the Eagles made them pay for it.
Boom.
And I mean, I think we all kind of looked at each other. You, me, and Greg all looked at each other. The moment that Najee fumbled that one pitch, like that's the moment that the game really kind of ended for the Steelers.
Because the Steelers were marching right down the field, and they had a chance to win that game. Yeah. If that doesn't happen, the call for the pitch, and B, Najee messing it up. But if you're, anyone who was at Lincoln Financial Field, including all those nervous Flyers fans around us, and that's what they are, by the way, they're just Flyers fans who wear green on Sundays. Let's be clear about this. As this was happening, you could sense in that place, oh man, we're done.
Yeah.
Done.
It was I do agree. It was a much better football game than people want to give it credit for. And you didn't see the same type of issues that we saw down the stretch in that game. All those miscommunication issues, that didn't happen until Baltimore in 6 days later. That's when you started to see, okay, Cam Sutton didn't pick up this guy when he moved in motion, and all of a sudden Mark Andrews is wide open in the back of the end zone, or this guy didn't pick up Isaiah Likely when he went out to the flat, and now he's wide open and scores an easy touchdown. And then 4 days later they play the Chiefs, and you're seeing the same stuff. And I think by that point, once that happened, they were just like,
they had nothing left.
Yes.
They had nothing. There was no recovery. The hole that had been dug, never mind the fact that they had already mathematically clinched, which was to their credit. Mm-hmm. The hole that was being dug was with their performance. It just kept going like this, and this. And for them to climb out of that by having, they one magical regular season finale at home against the Bengals, and that was going to be the thing that turned everything around and showed everybody that everything was okay. That wasn't going to happen either.
No, and so the thing, that was the one that really concerned me. I wasn't as concerned, even though they looked like a terrible football team in those losses to Baltimore and Kansas City. I believe in trends and I believe in results. And so when Mike Tomlin's teams have a short week, they don't do well. They didn't play well in Cleveland on that Thursday night, and they lost. They didn't play well on that short week. I understand it was 6 days. It's only one less day. It's still a shorter week, and they didn't play well in Baltimore. They didn't play well 4 days later against the Chiefs. But Mike Tomlin's teams, historically, either coming off of a bye week or coming off of what we like to call that mini bye, when they play on a Thursday night and then 10 days later have another game, they typically win a lot of those football games. And so I thought that season finale against the Bengals was going to be the thing that did help them turn that around, because they had that. And when they went out and they put out that flat performance, that was what concerned me more than anything. I wanted to see how the team responded to those 3 games in 11 days, and then see what they put out whenever they had time to prepare. And that's whenever I'm like, yeah, this team's done. They don't have a chance.
Dead in the water. Hey, everybody, we tried. The 10-3 turned into 0-5 for us, just like it did for them. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Time now for today's J1Q, which stands for Just One Question, which comes from just east of here.
Hey, DK. Paul from Churchill, and I trust you. My question is about Najee Harris. I've heard it being reported that they are potentially going to re-sign him, and I just don't understand why they would consider doing that. I know he's a good teammate. He's a great work ethic. He's durable. He doesn't fumble much. But I think they could find that in the draft and not spend $6, $7, $8 million a year. And I just question him as being a first-round talent. What are your thoughts?
My first thought is I have literally no idea what it is that you saw, heard, or read from that reporting. That doesn't mean that it's wrong, but I'm going to share with you my own reporting, and that is that no, they don't see him as coming back. Now, there are different ways that you can ask questions about things like this whenever you're talking to your sources, especially if they're the higher up type sources, which mine was in this instance. And one of those is, well, have you ruled out bringing Najee back? Okay, when you ask it like that, your answer is going to be no. And it's going to be 100% of the time no. The reason for that is because you literally don't rule things out like that. If Najee comes back to the Steelers and says, hey, I'll play for NFL vet minimum for you guys because I just love you so much and really don't care about money. It's not going to happen. None of that's going to happen. Okay? So they don't rule anything out. So the way that it came up in the dialogue that I had is looking ahead to who the running backs will be or are likely to be next season. And that really came across to me as being Jaylen Warren and a draft pick. They are speaking openly about drafting a running back. The last time they did that was when they got Najee. So it's in there. They tend to be a lot more transparent than most teams are as it is, as it regards the draft. I don't know why that is, but they put up billboards over, who they're going to take or what position they're looking at. And they say they're going to be looking at a running back. That tells me that they've already moved on. Now, there's other components to this as well. And that is that Najee was not a good fit for the Arthur Smith preferred wide zone blocking scheme. We've been over that a lot on this program, whereas Jaylen Warren was. Does that mean that you want to have two completely identical or similar even running backs? Maybe yes, maybe no. On one hand, Art Rooney said he wanted to see similar quarterbacks in the QB room, but with running backs, it's a little bit different because you can benefit as an offense by having two very different styles so long as you have an offensive line capable of adjusting for both of those guys. All I have to tell you here is that my information is that Najee will not be back. That's the best answer that I can give you. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody checking out Double Shot Show. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow.